What's good, people? It's your boy Persona of Gaming with Persona and one half of the What's Up PlayStation podcast crew, coming at you with a video where we're talking about Gotham Knights and this 30 frames per second. Boy, oh boy, was this out of left field. I was not expecting this type of news to hit. It did hit over the weekend, and it definitely caused a major stir within the community and really sparked a conversation of 30 frames per second on next-gen consoles. Is it acceptable? Is it not acceptable? We're gonna break all that down. I'm gonna give my thoughts, and we're really gonna dig deep into this and really talk about that, right? So sit back, relax, and I hope y'all enjoy the video. So if you know me, you know that I'm really excited for Gotham Knights, right? This has been one of my most anticipated games for quite a while now. I've been following it very closely. If you've been on my channel for quite a while, you know that I have been doing my reaction videos to a lot of the gameplay clips and information that they've been putting out throughout the year. So I'm very heavily invested into Gotham Knights, right? I do want to see this game succeed, and I do plan to put a lot of time into it. But the news that came out over the weekend definitely has me a little bit conflicted here, right? So let me read to you what was said from the executive producer at WB Montreal, Fleur Marty, and they read, "I know many of you are wondering about the availability of a performance mode for Gotham Knights on consoles. Due to the types of features we have in our game, like providing a fully untethered co-op experience, and our highly detailed open world is not as straightforward as lowering the resolution and getting a higher FPS. For this reason, our game does not have a performance/quality toggle option and will run at 30 frames per second on consoles."
The audacity!
This really is disappointing. Like, there's no way to flip it, right? This is absolutely disappointing for me personally, right? Seeing that this game was going to be a next-gen only title, I think we all assumed that there would be an option for 60 frames per second because so many other games in the past have given us that option. I think us as gamers, we have all grown accustomed and grown used to getting that 60 frames per second in games because we are getting it so consistently now. Now it's consistent. Last generation, not so much, but this generation, with the power of the PlayStation 5 and things like that, it is I would assume, right? Because I'm not a developer, I'm not in the office with them. I would assume that it's easier to reach that 60 frames per second level when it comes to games, right? But one of the other things that really, I think personally for me has me very confused is, back in May, they came out and said that they were ditching the last gen versions of this game, right? So when I heard that, I'm thinking, okay, wow, there is not going to be a last gen version of this game. There's going to be nothing holding the game development back per se. So we should really be getting the best of the best when it comes to performance. That's what I thought. And even when the executive producer, Fleur Marty, they came out and they said, when considering the scale and scope of Gotham Knights, we had to prioritize and focus our efforts to deliver the game at a satisfying level of quality for current gen. We totally understand that this is upsetting to players who don't own a current gen console yet, and believe me, we really didn't make this decision lightly, but in the end, we wanted to focus on delivering a game we are truly proud of. Now listen, I understand that, and I'm pretty sure the level of detail that this game is supposed to have, I think is going to be phenomenal, especially since they came out and said it's going to have ray tracing, 4K, 30 frames per second, high level shadows, lighting, like all the bells and whistles of that is going to be there, right? But my thing is, was a performance mode not on the list here? Like, this game cannot have no type of performance mode at all, no type of 60 frames per second, especially when we're looking at other games in its category that do 60 frames per second. What type of technologies are being used here that is preventing this game from being 60 frames per second or having a 60 frames per second mode? I still have so many questions. Not to mention that when you look at the minimum system requirements for PC, to get this game to run at 1080p 60 frames per second on the lowest settings, you need a 1660 Ti or better, and you need a Ryzen 5 3600 CPU. So, you know, knowing what the PlayStation 5 has and what it's doing, it's definitely better than that. So it's weird that PlayStation 5 would not get a 60 frames per second option as well when you're looking at the minimum PC spec requirements. That really doesn't make any sense to me, right? So, you know, I definitely think, you know, the developers need to definitely be a little bit more forward when it comes to the information that the PlayStation fans are looking for, because I gotta be honest, looking at this generation from last generation, now obviously when you look at last generation, you know, the power of the PlayStation 4 and the PS4 Pro, it was good enough, right? And you know, it served its purpose, right? We got a lot of awesome, amazing, beautiful looking games of last generation. But I think when we're talking about generational leaps, right? And when we're talking about moving into new generations of consoles and things like that, one of the expectations for myself is that the games will also get better, right? Performance wise, you know, both performance wise, you know, world, you know, open world wise, whatever it is, you know, you naturally expect everything to get better. Now, I'm not trying to, you know, I think for myself, you know, I remember where I come from, right? As being someone that has primarily played on a console for, you know, all of my life, really, right? Since I started getting into gaming way back as a child, you know, I've been gaming on consoles since for a long time. So I absolutely remember where I came from when it comes to, you know, 30 frames per second and things like that. And I've even said that I do think that certain games at 30 frames per second, it's not that big a deal to me, right? One, you know, like I mentioned, you know, turn-based JRPGs and things along those lines. You know, I think 30 frames per second is not that bad, right? But, you know, I think when we're talking about a game like Gotham Knights that is, you know, action based, it's an action adventure game, you know, it's requiring you to, you know, be quick with your actions and things like that so that you can, you know, parry enemies or dodge or do all these other things. I just feel like a smoother experience would be better at 60 frames per second. Here's where things get a bit muddy for me personally, right? Because I don't think from where I'm sitting, I don't think the expectations of wanting most, if not all, games to be 60 frames per second is unfair, right? I am very understanding of developers, their vision, their creative vision, and you know, their abilities and things like that. I understand that to a certain degree. But I think as a consumer and as someone who is, you know, buying these games and putting money into this, investing into this and all these other different things, I do think that, you know, moving into this generation, I think most, if not all, developers should have a 60 frames per second very high on their list when it comes to building out these games. But I think the other side of this as well is the fact that when it comes to the expectations, especially for when I'm looking at it from the PlayStation side of things, you know, when I look at PlayStation, the developers and what they're doing, and I see, like, you know, they're putting out the VRR and they're putting out, you know, with Miles Morales, you know, they put the 40 frames per second ray tracing mode, right? We saw Horizon Forbidden West looking as beautiful as it does at 60 frames, right? It looks so crisp. When I see games like that are knocking it out the park on a PlayStation 5, I find it very hard to accept that a third-party developer could not also get a game to those standards as well on a PlayStation 5. Now, obviously, there's other variables and things like that you have to consider, because, you know, they're not just developing for the PlayStation 5, obviously. So obviously it's those variables as well. But I feel like when we're looking at next generation and seeing what next generation is capable of doing from a first-party perspective, when I'm looking at third-party games that don't at least try their best to get to that level. And listen, I'm not trying to shit on WB Montreal, right? I'm not trying to say that they aren't doing their best. What I'm saying is, when I'm looking at games of this generation, I am also looking at the performance, and looking at something like Gotham Knights. I think it looks dope. I think it's like it's going to be a fun game. It looks beautiful from what I've seen. And I'm gonna be honest, I am going to keep my console version of this game. I did double dip. I do have the game on PC, and I'm getting the, I'm gonna keep my console version because, for what's up PlayStation purposes, we're doing a stream night or whatever. I want to keep the continuity there. We're keeping everything on PlayStation, right? But I think when it comes to the expectations, I don't think the expectation is unfair on a gamer's perspective to say, well, I'm expecting most, if not all, games to be 60 frames per second because we're in a new generation, right? These consoles are much more capable, so the expectation goes up for consumers and for gamers. I don't think that's unfair, but I do think, it's up to developers to make those decisions of what it is that they are going to do and not do when it comes to performance. And with that, gamers have to then vote with their wallets and be like, okay, this is what you're going to do. Fine. And you either buy it there, you don't, you wait for a sale, or you buy it where you're getting the best performance. You get what I'm saying? But, let me know in the comments how you guys feeling about this, man. Are you still picking up Gotham Knights on a console? If not, are you going to get it on PC? Let me know in the comments how you guys are feeling about all this. And yeah, guys, listen, I appreciate y'all's support. And I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned for more videos here on the channel. It's your boy Gaming with Persona. I appreciate y'all, and I'm out, guys. Peace.